I'd like to take this time to apologize for something I said last week, as Castellanos is going to come up to the plate here, hitting 308 on the season. I had some choice words for Mac Jones, the quarterback out of Alabama. He said that he would be a bust, as there's an 0-1 pitch right there in for a strike. I said he would be a bust if the 49ers took him at number 3. Well, turns out the Patriots took him at 15, and I am the biggest Mac Jones fan in the world. I want to apologize to his friends and family, as there's a deep drive in the left field. Way on! All right, boys. Kurt, yesterday I went to the dentist, and because I got this wire from when everybody who's had braces before, they give you this wire.
Yep, been there, done that.
Yeah, and it's split in so many different places. So I go there, and I mean, God, you ever seen the movie Saw? Like, it's just a torture film. Like, that was me.
Which one?
That was me sitting
Isn't
in
there
the
like
dentist.
25 of them now?
There's about 62 different movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the chair, and I was like, I could be casted in that movie right now. This girl has like her hook, like trying to grab the wire, and she's pulling it. It's all glued down, right? And she is struggling to get this out. I mean, she's really pulling on it. And I was almost tempted to ask her, like, do you want a crowbar to get this thing out? Because I feel like you're gonna rip my tooth out. Like, I was like, my tooth is coming out right now. And it was just terrible. I mean, they're hitting me with the really high pressure water, and I'm like, I am about to cry. But the problem was that there was this assistant, and she was like pretty good looking, so you got to put on your tough guy face, right? You can't let her know that this is hurting yet, right? So
yeah,
you're
you gotta hold on there. You gotta make it look like it's fine.
And she asked the assistant asked me multiple times. She was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good."
Cringing. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I like this. I like pain. Yeah. Well, that was my day yesterday. That completely sucked.
Going to the dentist kind of ruins your day, because you go to work and you just know after work, unless you weren't working yesterday, but
Right.
you just know. I remember when I was a kid, you had the day at school, you're like, oh God, I gotta go to the dentist after this. Like, my day's ruined. I can't, I'm just thinking about it all day. It's like, oh, I hate the dentist. Can't believe I have to go there tonight. It ruins your whole day.
And then they're putting the new wire in, and they have to they have to put the glue in, and then they hit it with like this blue light, and it like cooks it. I don't even know, makes it hard. And they shove this like piece of like white like cloth into my mouth to like catch all the shit, I guess. And I'm like, this girl is jamming this thing down my throat. I'm gonna die right here in this chair. I can't breathe here. It was just bad. It was a bad experience all around.
I feel that pain, because I have braces, so I have those wires as well, top and bottom. So
Top and bottom.
mine are hanging on though. They have no issues yet, so we'll knock on wood, because I don't really want to go through that again.
No, it's a bad experience, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Welcome back, everybody, to Taking All Bets, episode 18 now. Kurt, the last 24 hours in the NHL has been a whirlwind. There has been some big things going on, and hitting some headlines as the NHL.
Yeah.
Let's start with your boy Tom Wilson.
I knew we were gonna go with this.
I'm gonna say he basically had a temper tantrum on the ice is what happened, and he completely lost it on the New York Rangers.
Pavel Buchnevich, hopefully I said that right, did kick our goalie with sharp steel blades on. So like, you gotta if you look at it from the right camera angle, he did make a kicking motion at Vanacek, but then Wilson just lost it, started punching him in the back of the head, and then just picked Artemi Panarin up, and I think body slammed him to the ice. And
Yeah.
I honestly I didn't sleep last night. I was like, that this is it. Wilson's not playing again this year. Like they're gonna suspend him for the rest of the year. Our cup chances are gone. This is the worst. Like I was like I was expecting to wake up and see the NHL suspended Wilson rest of the NHL season because they are run like a game show. So
Yeah.
I never know what's going to happen in the NHL because they are all over the place when it comes to suspensions, fines. You never know what to expect. But
And
it was eventful to say the least. My favorite part, sorry, I'll let you go at this. My favorite part, I have to get into this, was Twitter last night. It was
oh, yeah.
unbelievable. Rangers fans were losing it. So I'm just laughing. They're all just losing their minds, just saying, kill Tom Wilson, get him out of the league. Someone needs to run his head into the boards, just losing their minds.
So, like, the result of all of this, like, pandemonium that happened in MSG last night was a $5,000 fine. Again, it's the equivalent of you getting fined $1. Okay. So that means nothing to these guys. But I do have some tweets here that are absolutely hilarious. And it says, one was, that Danny All Star Twitter account
Yeah,
that's like so
yeah.
big. So he tweeted out, he goes, Tom Wilson comes out of warm-ups with a rocket launcher. He
That's
fires it
awesome.
across the ice. The explosion kills half the other team. He's laughing hysterically. He fires another rocket. The entire other team is fucking dead on the ice. 46-year-old in the upper bowl, rent free. He's got another one. Whistle blows, a scrum ensues. Tom Wilson pulls out a pistol and starts shooting guys on the other team. They're all dead. He reloads and then shoots everyone on his team. Everyone dies, blood everywhere. Caps fan in the crowd. That's hockey, baby.
Honestly, that was kind of me last year. Like, oh, that's hockey, baby. Like, suck it up. But then I saw it later. I was like, oh, I don't know about that actually. But then I had to pretend that guy was all. I was like, oh, that's just hockey. He's not gonna get suspended. I was trying to convince myself everything was gonna be fine. So I was like, oh no, like if we lose our first line right winger for the rest of the year, we can just pack it up in round one because we're not winning a round. So I was like, oh God, please let him play the rest of the year or we're in big trouble.
Here's another one. It's like listening to Caps fans defend Tom Wilson, and it's this guy with his headphones in, and the other end of the cord is in a garbage can. And then the one guy tweeted, Tom Wilson has been fined whatever is left on his Dave and Buster's power card, maximum allowable by the CBA. I mean, it's just wild. Tom Wilson.
Ryan Whitney had some strong tweets as well. So he made a
Oh, did he?
video. Yeah, he made a video. He was basically, he goes, here's one. Another reminder to every moron crying that Tom Wilson should be kicked out of the league. He wasn't even suspended. And he had a video. He was just fake crying, saying, all you whiners out there. It's like, that happens every game. It's a scrum. So like I saw a little bit of both, but majority of people, especially if you are a Rangers fan, they were not happy at all.
Okay, like I like Ryan Whitney. I agree with what a lot he says, but like that is just like retarded what that is. Like honestly, of course, Tom Wilson should have been suspended for what he did. Like the guy blew up on the ice and then fucking power bomb slammed Artemi Panarin into the ice. You would have been like, is this WWE I'm watching right now? Like this is chaos out here on the ice. Um I just think I think he should have been suspended. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, he's just a repeat offender, and like that was just like a full blown temper tantrum on the ice. Like I don't even get it. Like he started off with the scrum at the he was at the bottom of the pile with Buchnevich, was it? And he just like punched
Yeah.
him in the back of the head
Yeah.
for no reason.
Well, it's because he kicked at the goalie. That's what I was saying. That's what started it. So that's like he kicked at the goalie. So then Wilson, like obviously he was if you kick at their goalie, you're gonna do something about it. That probably wasn't what you should have done, but he went after
Right.
Buchnevich because he kicked at our goalie. And then so the scrum falls into the corner, and then he kind of actually Artemi Panarin if you watch the video, he jumped on his back. Like I'm not kidding, he was riding his back hanging off his
Yeah.
shoulders. So Wilson just like turns and throws him up and grabs him, just throws him to the ground. So I mean, I kind of like obviously as a Caps fan, I'm trying to look at a positive side for Wilson because I he probably could have got maybe a suspension for I think just hitting anyone in the head. Now how the NHL deals with it, you usually get at least a game. So I was kind of surprised it wasn't for that. And then just knowing how they treat Tom Wilson after what his careers looked like, I was expecting a little more. But if that was anyone else, I probably don't think that it was as brutal because Buchnevich kicked at the goalie and then Panarin was hanging off his back. So like, what do you want him to do? Not like do anything about Panarin jumping on his back?
I also heard Anthony Stewart say this on the on hockey or whatever it is, Hockey Night or like Sportsnet. I don't even know what the moniker for Monday is. They always have some sort of name for it. And he's talking about how it doesn't make sense for the Rangers to start this with Tom Wilson because he's like, the Rangers aren't making the playoffs. The Capitals are. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would you start this? Like, you're going in opposite directions. And I'm like, what the fuck do you expect the Rangers to do? Like, do you expect them to sit there like a bunch of pussies and not do anything? Like,
Yeah.
of course, this is exactly why when they traded away Brendan Lemieux, I was like, this is a bad move. This is a
Yeah.
terrible idea because Brendan Lemieux, if he's on the ice or even if he's on the bench, you think that shit goes down? There's no fucking like if
Well,
anybody on that Rangers team, Brendan Lemieux would have went after him.
they've already fought a couple times, like Wilson and Lemieux, so they have a history. So there you go. That kind of adds to your point right there. He obviously doesn't take a lot of Wilson's antics on the ice. But another thing too, like when we get back into like the Panarin things, people were still mad, like 'cause he didn't have his helmet on, like he could have been seriously hurt. It's like Panarin should not have engaged in that in the first place because Wilson is a 6'4", 220-pound guy. You're 5'11", 175 pounds. Like, what did you think was going to happen from you jumping on his back or engaging with Tom Wilson? Pick another guy, you're a star player, pick another guy on the ice, grab him, take him to the corner and wait and watch it play out. But I understand he was going at first. I think it was Wilson was one of the bottom of the pile too when that all slid from the side of the net. So I'm not
Yeah,
really sure how Panarin ended up engaging with Tom Wilson or
because
why he chose Tom Wilson because
because
he just jumped on his back.
because Tom Wilson punched Buchnevich, and
But
then everybody got up, and then it was like a scrum, and it was getting really, really testy. And then Panarin then comes in, and he jumps on
yeah, that's why I think that's
Wilson's
a
back
poor choice though on his part as well. And people then were upset because he left injured, but he also missed the morning skate and he was already hurt before. Like he wasn't they weren't sure if he was going to play. It was a game time decision. He missed because of a maintenance stay. So I like maybe the injury was aggravated from that, but it's a lower body injury that I think he probably already had and that's why he missed the skate to begin with because Rangers fans were losing their mind that he left injured, but I think he was already hurt before.
Well, yeah, of course they're mad that he left injured and he's not going to play the rest of the season because not that they are, but if the Rangers are in the playoffs, that's a major deal that
Yeah, but
you're
they
going to
knew.
miss Panarin for potentially who knows how long. He's gone for the rest of the season. If it was playoffs and they were going into playoffs, who knows how long he's gone into playoffs. Like that's a huge problem. The NHL, like I don't think that star players should be treated differently, but obviously star players are what drive the income for the NHL. And so if you want to continue driving that income, I think you need to protect your star players. And Artemi Panarin is a star player. Like and for that to go down the way it did when it totally didn't have to, it was completely unnecessary for that shit to even start. I don't
Speaking
know.
speaking of that, like kind of viewership and like them bringing in fans, etc., like star players. After that scrum last night, I'm pretty sure that the top trending thing on Twitter was Tom Wilson, like that scrum. So, I mean, Mike Grinelli made a point. He was like, well, I mean, Tom Wilson might be the most hated player in the league, but like he really moves the needle in terms of drawing people into talking about the NHL, which is
Yeah.
obviously that's maybe not how you want it to do it, but the NHL was trending last night, so a
Yeah.
lot of people had a lot to say. A lot of people were tuning in to see what went down.
I just think that there's a few guys in the NHL that need to get their ass kicked, and Tom Wilson might be at the top of that list. Like there's a few guys, Brad Marchand, Tom Wilson. Um, those are really the two that I think I'm like these guys really need a shit
Yeah.
kicking,
Honestly, though,
and and I don't know who gives it to him. Like I don't know who goes up against Tom Wilson and gives it to him. Nobody on the Rangers,
no.
but somebody needs to.
Yeah, that's honestly a reason. Like when obviously in one of as we get closer to the playoffs, we'll get into our playoff predictions. So I'm not going to get into too much of that now. But if you're looking at the layout of a lot of these teams going into the playoffs, and as a Leafs fan, you'll know from prior years how the impact. Like if you're a team that if you get bullied,
Yeah,
it doesn't work out. It doesn't work well. You have to play 7 games, 7 physical games against that team. If you can't hold your own, like okay, a scenario the Rangers do make it. You just said you traded Lemieux. What's happening if they play Boston or Washington in those 7 games?
it's not
Like
going to be good.
no, it's and if you do move on, you're beaten down, and the next round is not going to go well because you're just going to be
Right.
so worn down. So I think it like that's why I like the build of the Capitals. They are like the heaviest team in the league, and they don't lack on speed. And a lot of their best guys are just huge. Like we saw Ovechkin. Remember he like obviously it was bad to see Svechnikov knocked out, but like, are you messing with that guy? Like it's a poor choice. The guy's been known as one of the best hitters. He's also 6'3". Wilson 6'4". They just added Chara, who's 6'9", and he threw Matt Martin around this year like a rag doll. Garnet Hathaway, Brendan Dillon. This team is a big team. They're heavy. Like you don't bully this roster. And that's why I think they're built for the playoffs.
They the whole like all of these I don't even know what they are snowflakes, I guess if you want to call them that. These people who get on there and they're like, fighting shouldn't be in hockey.
Oh my
Leave it to
God.
the league to discipline. Obviously, with Tom Wilson, the league has suspended him and fined him so many times, and the guy just keeps doing what he does because he just doesn't give a shit. When the wires touch, get out of the way because Tom Wilson's going to rip your head off. But if there's a guy like Ryan Reeves on the other team, do you think he's going to pull that shit? No way, because the players police the game. Players are way less apt to do something like Tom Wilson did if they know they're going to have to physically pay for it. They're going to have to take punches in the face because they did what they did. That's why the Leafs went out and they got a guy like Wayne Simmons. Is Wayne Simmons a heavyweight in the league? No, he is not. He's probably a light heavyweight, but still.
He was, but now like at his age and stuff, now he's not
Right.
as much as he used to be. In his younger days, he could throw them with
Yeah.
anyone really, but obviously you can't expect him to do that at 37 years old. It's not really fair to him. So it's
Well,
still
yeah.
he's one of the toughest guys on that roster, and that's a big addition. And we've seen
Right.
it countless times this year where he stepped up when things are going a different direction. You need momentum. It's important. Like you
Yeah.
said, there's people who are trying so hard to convince us that the games should go a different direction. I'm sorry, but it's not. And we've seen it. It has to be policed by the players. And when it comes down to the playoffs, the tougher teams seem to hang on a little longer than the ones that aren't as tough.
Yeah. And I mean, it can be done. It can be done to win with all skill. I mean, look at the Oilers in the 80s, right? They were all skill
But
and
this
it
is it.
can be done. But I'm saying that and I think being tough even back then was even more important than it is now. But I just think that it's few and far between the teams that are completely skilled win in the playoffs. So that's why you need guys like a Wayne Simmons, or you need guys like even like a Joe Thornton. Like Joe Thornton, he doesn't fight all the time, but the guy is like 6'4". He is like 225 pounds. Like he's a big man. And so he can handle himself. Or a guy like Ryan Reeves, like guys like that. So that's why teams need to I think they need to take a little less on the skill side. They need to take a little more on the tough side, a little more truculence. And so, I mean, that's just what I got to say about it. But I mean, Tom Wilson, he's just a different breed, and
He's built different, all right.
he he just he there's always somebody bigger, right? There's always somebody bigger.
He's also on our team.
Okay. Well, here's another
He
guy.
plays defense for our team, but that's all right.
Okay. Well, here's another guy who waived his no movement clause today, who I think could be another guy who could step up to Tom Wilson. Milan Lucic has waived his no movement clause so that he can be picked up in the Seattle expansion draft. Basically, he's doing it as a favor to Calgary in order to get they're paying him like $5.25 million to play on their fourth line. Um, and he's doing it out of a favor for them, basically. Now, Calgary's probably going to have to trade at least, I'm going to say, a first round pick to Seattle in order for them to even take him in the draft, right? Because he's not a valuable player
No,
anymore.
but that's the whole idea because he waived his no move clause is because you're forced to protect him. Now he
Mm-hmm.
can still stay with the Flames, but they just don't have to protect him, so it doesn't make a difference. Like they don't, and he's probably not going to get taken, but they just don't have to use up a spot. So like, if I'm not mistaken, it's 7, 3, and 1, or you can do 11 skaters, right? Or is it 10
Something
skaters?
like that.
So those are the two options you have. And I'm looking at their lineup. You're going to keep Markstrom. You're going to keep Lindholm, Goudreau, Kachuk, Monahan, Backlund, Mangiapane, and then I don't know, Dylan Dubé. Is that like, I
Maybe.
guess, like, yeah, they can. The next one is, it's kind of tricky, but you would have been forced to keep Lucic, which you probably don't want to. But then they also, I was looking at their team, like the defense is an interesting one because Giordano, Rasmus Anderson's pretty good, Noah Hannafin, and Chris Tanev. There's four that are pretty good choices. Like it's a pretty solid top four. So
Right.
I'm wondering, I'm not convinced that they don't go that direction, but then it depends. I'm not sure if you how that would work for keeping goalies. Um, I either way, this move just makes it a lot easier for them to not be forced into keeping him because they don't want to. Like it's just a waste of a keeper spot or like
But
a
wouldn't
protected
you,
player.
but if you're Brad Tree Living, wouldn't you want to get rid of Lucic in that contract? Not get rid of Lucic. You want to get rid of the contract, though.
You do, but it's not like I wouldn't trade away a first, maybe if you really need that space, but I'd just be more worried at keeping more quality players instead of being forced to keep him.
No,
Yeah,
I
obviously.
get that. I
How
get
many
that.
years is that contract? Like how many years is left on that?
2 years.
Two?
And so, like,
But
I get that it allows you to protect different players. It allows you to protect guys you would like to keep more. But in saying that, now that he has waived his no movement clause, if I'm Brad Treliving, I'm on the phone with Ron Francis and I'm going, "Hey, what do you want to take this $5.2 million off my hands? Because this team right now is not good enough. They
yeah,
don't have enough scoring power, and so you can use $5.2 million and you can go out and get yourself a pretty good player. Like
yeah,
Mike
you
Hoffman's
absolutely
on a
can.
1 year deal.
Well, we've seen it
Guys like
too.
that.
We both our teams have done this in the last 2 years or three off seasons, I guess. You guys traded a first and Marlowe to free up that cap space because
Mm,
obviously you needed that to sign important key guys. So that's how valuable that it's a flat cap too. People have to remember. And
right.
then we just did it in that Mantha trade. People like I said before, it was two trades. Getting rid of Panic's contract was what we need to do. That's why we threw in the first and the second. You can decide which one went with which, but those picks, those assets were to get rid of that contract because it's a flat cap. We're always a team that's close to the cap. We want to bring in other guys. Like you gotta add to your roster if you can. So,
Right.
and we have guys we need to re-sign. So bringing in, get rid of that like two, I think it was 2.75. Getting rid of that was, it seems like not a lot, but it is. So 5.2, yeah, you could definitely bring in quality assets if you can get rid of that contract.
Exactly. So I mean, if I'm Brad Treliving, now that he's waived his no movement clause, not that you want to get rid of Milan Lucic because he does play a role on that team. He is a heavyweight in the league. Some people call him the champ. I think it's either him or Reeves, but I just think at $5.2 million, he's just too expensive. You need to free up that cap and you need to move on from him. He said he wants to stay in Calgary. Um, but we'll see. I mean, the ball is now in management's court. Um, let's move on to another heavyweight in the league. Evander Kane is getting sued again for
This
$15 million.
this guy has had so many money issues over the past few years, and I just couldn't help but thinking about, remember that picture? I think he was in Vegas
Yeah,
and he was flaunting the money. Just
yeah.
the irony that now all these issues with bankruptcy, being sued, gambling issues, it's all coming to the forefront, and it's kind of sad too, right? Every time you see this, like a guy who makes a lot of money running into these issues, it's not fun stuff to see.
No, and like the guy, I read something today that it was he got the loan in March of 2019, and I think it was that he didn't have to start making payments, or maybe it was zero interest until I think June of that same year, and he just like didn't make any payments. He got $1.5 million, and he just didn't make any payments on that loan, and then they come back and they sue him for 15 million because of like punitive damages or whatever they called it. Um, I
From
don't know, man. Like that,
from
it's just so crazy
Yeah,
to
from what
me.
I'm reading, it was a professional bank. It was a He took a loan from a bank, but apparently he took loans from multiple banks and just didn't intend to pay them back.
Well, I think those were the banks that when the story originally came out, he owed like $1 million here, $1 million here, five
Yeah,
million here. He owed money to casinos.
it's
Like
like
he owed money to everybody.
yeah, 16 million unpaid loans. He lost 1.5 gambling. He had 93,000 in monthly expenses. So just there's a lot of different separate issues where money was starting to add up.
I think those $93,000, I could be wrong. I think he had to put down his income, and he put down negative $93,000. He was spending 93,000 more than he was making in a month. That
Oh
is
my
so
goodness.
nuts. Like this guy is just like, I get it. He plays in California. Taxes, are a lot in California. But dude, you make $7 million a year. You're on a $35 million contract, I think.
I think it was
So
49.
okay.
Like, yeah, $49 million contract.
So for, let's say, easy figuring, you take home 3.5 to $4 million a year. Take home after taxes, you pay your agent, you do all that bullshit. What are you doing where you're spending more than 3.5, $4 million in a year? Why are you going and getting a loan for $1.5 million if you make that much money? I get
Yeah,
the financial side of it where you're like, oh, you could make more money on investments, whatever, then you're going to pay on interest, whatever. But still, you make 3.5, $4 million more. That you make 3.5, $4 million a year take home. It's just so nuts to me, man, that you can't keep it in check like this.
yeah, it's because a lot of these people, you see this with celebrities all the time. They get that money so early because he's still, what is he? He's 30 now, but like
Yeah,
he's been a good player in the NHL for quite a while now. So you gotta think that he's had a lot of money since he was drafted, probably, right? You get your
right.
bonus, you start performing, you get that first contract, which is, it's all right, it's a little bit of money. Then he signed a bigger one, and then like 49 million is a lot of money. You just get used to, especially living in California, that lifestyle too is probably a little more luxurious, but still being in debt that much, it's absurd. Like, how do you're just so careless is the only word really to describe it, right? Like, it's
So
super careless with that money.
so just on his salary, what he's made in the NHL, $55.8 million is what he's made already.
So far, so that he's on, because he still has years left on that contract right now,
Yeah,
right?
he
Yeah.
has he has oh my god, he has after this year is one, two, three, 4 more years.
Wow.
And you're right, $49 million is what he's gonna make off this contract. So 4 more years after this. Like, dude, how do you do that? Come on, man. But could you imagine, right? You and me, let's say.
Right.
Somebody comes to us and they go, "Hey, how you doing? Here's $1 million check. You've been killing it this year. I love what you're doing. Love what you're doing with the podcast. Here's $1 million check." I would blow through that money so quick. I'd be like, I'm balling out for the rest of the year. I'm like, I'm buying cars. I'm going on trips. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And at 20 years old, that is crazy to be like, here's $1 million.
If
Free and
you
clear.
think if you think about it though, $1 million is not a lot. Like based on housing prices, and then you buy like a nice car, almost all your money is gone, if not gone.
Oh yeah, but like I'm
Like
saying, like
it that's what I'm saying. It'd be super easy to blow through $1 million. So
let's
like
say 10
in a
million.
way,
Let's say
okay,
somebody gives you $10 million. I'm
I
like,
put
I'm
I
I'm
put
going, I'm
seven
going on
I
every
put
trip ever, bro.
I put seven away or and invest a bunch of it, and I keep three and just do whatever I want with it. I
No,
would
you don't.
definitely like, yeah, I'm not trying to sound like the hero who's like, oh, I'm watching I gotta watch my finances immediately. But like, doesn't that that's so much money to blow through in
Yeah.
1 year? Like $10 million. Like, what are you gonna do?
I mean, of course
Like
I'm
I wouldn't
joking, but
even know
like,
what yeah, I wouldn't even know what to do with that money. Like even $3 million, I couldn't spend that all if I tried. I mean, I could, but
oh,
it would
I
take
think
a
you could if you
while.
tried. I think you could
Like
if you tried.
yeah, but like think about like just because of if you buy a house, buy a few cars, like I guess there goes like probably just over $1 million. I guess it depends on the size of the house as well, but it would be difficult to spend that much money in a year.
So Artie Lang, a comedian, he was on the Stern Show. He was telling a funny story about he was doing a couple of shows in Vegas, I think, or somewhere, and he made 70 grand a show, and he did two of them. So he had 140 grand, and he went to Vegas for the Super Bowl. He gambled, he got drugs, he got hookers, he partied for a weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. He's on his way back to New York and he calls the accountant and he was like, "Hi, I need $5,000." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, he's like, "Yeah, I spent $145,000." And they're like, "In a weekend?" And he's like, "Yeah,
Oh my
yeah, it got a little crazy."
you hear about some of these celebrities and athletes and stuff that end up at these clubs or bars, or whatever, and they end up with these tabs. They go up with their teammates for a dinner, even, and the guys have to pay the tabs, and they get up there like $100,000
Oh yeah.
could end up being like with the bottle of wine for a bunch of people. Like that can be a dinner tab sometimes, depending on where you go.
Somebody did the math and it was like Jay-Z went out one night and he spent $100,000, and they broke down like what he made the year before, and they were like, if you made $40,000 in a year, that's equivalent to you going out and spending like $10.
it's
Like nothing. It's
it's like
nothing to
buying
you.
it's like buying one beer at a Jays game. Not
Yeah,
even.
it's like going. I saw a guy. We went to a Jays game one time, and they were probably like four seats down from us. And the guy was like, "Hi, can I get like 8 Bud Lights?" And the guy serving him was like, "That'll be $84." And he was like, "What?"
Has he
Can
never
you
been there
imagine
before?
handing over $84 and you're like, "I got one beer out
Yeah,
of this, and the rest of my friends got one."
oh, that would be brutal.
Oh my god, it sucks. I go on a Jays game, like it's so expensive. Like if you go to a Jays game, your ticket, I don't know, might be $80, say, like you get a decent ticket for $80, and you're like, I need at least $300 for this trip because of all the shit that's going to be bought and how expensive it is at this game. It's just
Yeah,
brutal.
it's super expensive.
Yeah. You want to get into some picks?
Yeah, sure. I'll lead
Sure.
it off this
Yeah.
time.
What do you got for Wednesday night?
These are the Wednesday night games. We're going to start on the ice. The Jets are visiting the Flames. I'm going to take the Jets. I support Stephen A. Smith here. I'm going to take the Knicks over the Nuggets. Let's go to the Diamond here. I'll take Kansas City over Cleveland and Minnesota over Texas.
I like it. I like it. I'm gonna start on the ice. I'm gonna take the Rangers over the Capitals. I think the Rangers are pissed off right now, and I'm going to take them on Wednesday night. Maybe get a little retribution. I'm going to stay on the ice. I'm going to get Nashville. Give me them over Columbus. Columbus is terrible. They're like the second. I think they're the second worst team in the league.
Yeah, they're not very good at hockey.
They're awful right now. Um, I'm going to go to the field. I'm going to go to the baseball field. Give me the Yankees over the Astros. Here come the Yankees. I've been saying it. Here come the Yankees. I think they're 500 now as of this recording. And then I'm gonna roll with you. I'm gonna take the Twins over the Rangers as well.
All right,
So
nice picks. I like
yeah,
those.
I like these picks. All right, well, that'll do for today's show. Thank you everybody for listening. If you haven't already, hit like, hit subscribe, rate the show wherever, and we will be back Friday. So see you everybody.